The Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we're learning from Phumlani Pikoli. Now, Phumlani is a writer. He's an author and a multimedia artist. You'll hear through this podcast that he's dabbled and is continuing to dabble in a number of different artistic pursuits. But the one that he's probably come to most attention to this year, at least, over the last 2 years, is as an author of the book Born Freeloaders, which actually just won the Sello Duiker award, which is an award that goes to writers under the age of 40, I think, in South Africa. So he's just won that award. He's doing a lot of press for Born Freeloaders, or at least it looks like it on my timeline. But he'll say he's not working that hard in the podcast. But yeah, Phumlani is someone who I have been aware of for a very long time and followed online for a very long time, back since his Mahala days. And when I was running Durban as Yours, we came up roughly at the same time. And I've followed his work for a long time. These days, I think he's writing mostly for Mail and Guardian, and a few other places, of course. And we get into the history of music journalism a little bit with the Mahala days, and we discuss criticism, giving it and receiving it, as we've both been on the ends of both those things. So yeah, this is quite a cool chat, man. We chat about drugs. Big surprise there. Like, I'm sure you would never expect me to talk about drugs, and if you've read Born Freeloaders, you definitely would not be surprised by Phumlani talking about drugs. So yeah, we discuss the recreational use of drugs and also how sometimes it goes a little bit pear-shaped, and our personal relationships with them and alcohol and those sorts of things. We look back at the history of music in South Africa in the 2000s, basically late 90s, mid 2000s, early 2000s, just like beginning of the 2010s as well. So yeah, this one goes all over, and we even chat about sport. So this podcast has something for absolutely everybody, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I've been enjoying myself quite a bit in the recent history. If you listen to the last episode of the podcast with Hannah Schoen, you would know that I was going away for my anniversary with my girlfriend. It is our 6-year anniversary. It's actually coming up this weekend, but we booked a weekend away last weekend at Mantis and Moon down the south coast. And that was an absolutely wonderful experience. We got to stay in this treehouse, this glass treehouse, which is just like a spectacular thing to do, trust me. Just getting to lay in bed and just be in the treetops, looking at monkeys, trying to prevent them from stealing your bananas. They got one. They did get one, but they didn't get the rest. So yeah, that was a vibe. On the last night, we actually had one of the big dogs on the property come and because the treehouse is up a flight of stairs, like a pretty steep flight of stairs. And we were actually watching Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in bed, and I look to the side and because the door started rattling a little bit, and we see this big dog. And we're like, oh snap, cool. So we're like, well, do you want to come inside? And we just slid the doors open a little. Dog came in, lay on the floor, and yeah, just dosed with us, which was amazing. And then at some point, the dog got up and came and stood by the side of the bed. And I was like, well, you want to get on? And he was like, yeah, dog, I want to get on. So he got on the bed, and we slept with this gigantic dog at the bottom of our bed, which kind of gave me this sense of a potential future, just a potential timeline that a Bob Perfect could exist on. Would it be my existence? I don't know. But there is a timeline where, yeah, living in a glass tree house with a big dog could be a thing. Who knows? I've got some other things to do in the meantime, but the call of fucking off from society was strong this weekend. What else I need to tell you? I need to tell you that this is a listener-supported podcast, which means it is brought to you by you. And you can do that a couple of different ways. There is patreon.com/almostperfect. And we also have some merchandise. We have a couple of mugs left. I had 50 printed, and there's about 8 or 9 left in the box to sell that aren't booked for some people and aren't booked for giveaways and those sorts of things. So if you'd like to buy one of those mugs, they are 100 Rand each, and 10 Rand from each mug sale goes to Sesonke. Sesonke is an organization that is working to decriminalize sex work in South Africa and supports sex workers in general in South Africa in a number of different ways. And you can go check them out, sesonke.org.za. But yeah, you can buy a mug from me. They're 100 Rand each, and they are printed by the print room, who are kind of our sponsors. Like, they're giving me a discount on merch. So, you know, we're friends of the podcast, the print room. So shout outs to them, because I'm going to be getting some stickers done with them pretty soon. Ideally, once, you know, a few more people either sign up to the Patreon at patreon.com/almostperfect, or buy the last of the mugs from me. You buy those mugs from me, I can buy some stickers, and those I'll just be sending out to patrons. Those I'll just be giving to people. You can just be like, yo, Bob, can I have a sticker? I'll be like, there you go, there's a sticker. Easy exchange. So yeah, buy a mug, and who knows, you might actually even get a sticker with the mug. I don't know how the timing of everything is going to work out, but I'll make a plan. And we're also actually giving away 2 copies of Born Freeloaders by the one and only Phumlani Pikoli. And this is cool because last week I mentioned that I have his books because I bought them, and I've been doing this thing where I give away books via Patreon because I don't have space on my bookshelf anymore, and I figure, hey, that's a little bit of extra value for you guys, and it's a cool way for me to share something I love, you know, like I love reading, and I love, sharing dope books that motivate me or move me or touch me in some way. And Born Freeloaders is if you are someone who loves music in South Africa and grew up in the creative scene at any time, but especially in the 2000s, I think you'll resonate with it quite a lot. So we've got 2 copies to give away because Phumlani got his publishers, Pan Macmillan / Picador Africa, to send me some copies to give to you. Instead of me giving away my copy, I'm giving you guys some fresh copies, haven't even been touched yet, and they will be going to a patron. There you go. The 1 copy is just going to go to a patron, random draw. That's just because you don't need to do anything else, okay? You're giving me money. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that. So, a token of my appreciation, one of you who is a patron will be getting a copy of Born Freeloaders. Now, you don't have cash in the bank, I'm not going to hold that against you. If you can't support the podcast in that way, that is totally fucking fine. I get that. But there's many other ways to do it. So, another way to enter into the competition to win the other copy of the book would be by sharing the podcast on your social media and tagging Almost Perfect Media in it. So either on Facebook, Almost Perfect Media there, Almost Perfect ZA on Twitter, and Almost Perfect Media on Instagram. And if you can just share it in the various ways that are available to you there, and you just tag me in it, I'm going to write your name down, I'm going to put a little thing there and go, cool, that's an entry. And on each platform that you do it on, that's an entry. And I'm just going to get a name picker that you get online, and one of you will go home with Born Freeloaders. No, Born Freeloaders will be coming to your home. What else do I need to tell you? Oh, yes. I've interviewed Nikki St. Bruce for OK Africa. Nikki St. Bruce, also known as Push Push. And I'm working on that at the moment. It's taking a little while because we chatted for a very long time. And if you go listen to the Almost Perfect podcast with Push Push, you'll see that Nikki goes all over the place. And that is quite a lot to work with when you're a writer and trying to figure out what parts of the story to tell and all of that. So it's taking a little bit of work, but soon on OK Africa, you will be able to read that interview about her year. But if you want to hear more about her from herself, go check out the episode of the podcast we did together, because you're actually going to find out a little bit about the history of Nikki St. Bruce, Phumlani Pikoli, and Bob Perfect in just a little bit on this very podcast. Yeah, man, there was some beef back in the day. and we squashed it a little bit right at the beginning of this podcast. One more thing I do need to tell you. Of course, there is a tier over on patreon.com/almost perfect called the titular titles tier. Now, this is a $10 tier. It is the highest tier you could possibly be a part of at the moment. Maybe I'll offer something else. I don't know, for the people overseas who still are doing well, to who $20 isn't that much. But I get it, here in South Africa, $10 is a lot to be paying for a podcast. That's 40 Rand a week pretty much. So thank you very much to all of you who are doing that. I greatly appreciate it. And that's why you guys shout outs every single week on this podcast. And you get to pick your title on this podcast. So shout out to Chief Sales Officer of Subtle Heresies in the Greater Overberg region, Rousseau. Shout out to Karan Sleman, who's been the Almost Perfect Youth Group leader. Shout out to King Julian, who is the king. Shout out to Stephen Olafia, who is the executive producer. And lastly, but definitely not leastly, it is Vishendra Naidu, who is my spiritual advisor. Thank you to all of you. You're an amazing team. I love the work that you do, and that work allows me to do this work. So thank you very, very much. And shout outs to all of you. And with that said, I'm just going to head straight into the Almost Perfect podcast with Phumlani Pikoli. Okay, so how are you living, Phumlani?
Well, bro, just living my life. I've decided to let go of the South African accent since Dan Carter started watching my Insta stories because the South African accent is stink. I'm good, man. How you doing, Maggie?
I am, like I was saying to you off like the recorded cast, I am relaxed as fuck, dude. I am very much in my chilled vibes at the moment. I know it's not gonna last for too long.
Yeah.
Some things are already irritating me, some things are already annoying me about the real world. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I just spent a weekend away down the coast, and it's just what I needed like this year,
Yeah, I'm stoked that I'm catching that slipstream of like relaxation.
Yeah, you probably haven't relaxed much this year, have you?
I mean, I look a lot busier than what I actually am. Um,
Okay,
like yeah,
that's online vibe, yeah, like where we were all just like seeing what other people are doing and going, damn, they're busy. Meanwhile, they're chilling half the time and just going
yeah.
doing these one thing a week.
Exactly. Like I'm like on sloth mode most of the time, just like catching like 18 hours before like doing one piece of work and then catching another 18 hours and whatever. So I think I've got the work-life balance like at least cosmetically on point.
Nice. I'm trying to figure out where we should start. Actually, let's start with the time that you actually called me out, because this is something. When you commented on the Sabelo Mkabela podcast, I was shocked, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah,
I thought you did not fuck with me at all, because a few years ago I wrote an article for Noisy about Push Push,
yeah,
and I know her standing in the scene at the time might not have been that great,
yeah.
and I put some things in the article that people thought shouldn't have been there. And yeah, that drew some ire, and particularly from you. So what
Yeah.
happened there from your side?
So there, from my side, there was just like I think there was also like a lot of miscommunication, and also like the internet is like a wild ass place. You kind of live angry, waiting for someone to sort of
Yeah.
fuck up. But what happened there for me was like Mark was my homie, like one of the like the old guards. We grew up in PTA together. We used to rap together, and all of that. And I only had this like sort of like distant view of what was going on, and like what was from what I could hear and like was gathering from the situation. I just wasn't happy with like what it looked and sounded like that Nikki was doing in the article. And so it wasn't actually like, so when I came at the both of you, it was just kind of like a kind of warped sense of understanding because I didn't have the full story, but I was just in like protective mode of my like homie. And then yeah, then I was just a dick to you, and then I was I was a super dick to Nikki. But we since squashed that. Like we're on really really good terms now actually, and I think we actually needed that.
Yeah, she told me.
Yeah, I think we needed that just to like make like to clear the air. on like a lot of shits, and we both learned from that situation because like there was bullshit happening on all sides. But I was just like, I think I was at work and I was like hungover and cranky, and then I read the article and I was like, this aggression cannot stand. So yeah, it was a little bit of bullshit on my side. So I'm glad that we that we can fuck with each other.
Yeah, definitely, man. And the thing, like, I'll tell you, the thing that touched me, I think it was your sister who said, like, that I was green. And that, like, really, like, that was the one thing out of everything that everyone said that, like,
Yeah.
annoyed me. But looking back, she was actually a little bit right there. I should have maybe done a bit more research into the story. And I learned from that, to be completely honest, to, like, actually maybe try and find both sides when people are talking about other people. So, lesson learned.
Yeah, I think like the intense thing about like doing journalism at any point in time is like having to research, and especially when it's coming from a personal story, it becomes hard to sort of verify like where do you start and all of that. And so you actually just accept shit at people's word. And Nikki's word wasn't wrong. It just felt at the time like the picture hadn't been fully painted. And it also felt like she had taken over ODA from my perspective at the time, whereas I was like, ODA was Mark shit, Old Dark Arrow. And
Yeah.
I felt like he needed to get his dues like in a very, very serious way on that one.
Yeah, he's got some new, I saw on Instagram today actually that he's got some new music coming out. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
Like
that kid
Mark and
don't stop.
I, like, yeah, like Mark and I, like, I don't know. I used to like not really fuck with him because I don't know, he was a bit of a sourly type of dude when he was with PH Fat.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I just felt like he gave me the side eye like at certain gigs and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I wasn't really, but I don't know the guy at all.
Yeah.
And then just over the years, I mean, I like his fucking music. Like I think he's really talented, and I'd love to chat to him one day and actually get his story from his side because I think it's definitely going to be interesting. I think it's something a lot of people would like to actually know from the horse's mouth. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially what we were talking about offline now, just like the idea of like fucking having to push through and eventually like sort of succeeding. But yeah, I mean, Mark isn't the friendliest motherfucker on the face of the planet, although I will say he's probably amongst the most talented.
Yeah,
So I think,
I can agree with that.
yeah, like I mean, his raps are like, yeah, the kid raps.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's actually talk about your book, Born Freeloaders. I'll be honest with you, I'm only on page 98 at the moment, so I'm halfway through. I feel like the tension hasn't entirely come yet, but I love what you've set up already. Like, to me, reading this book is almost like I imagine it's the Blackjacks. I
Oh,
know
word,
it's not, but like that's the band that like
word.
pops up
That's,
when I imagine this.
yeah, that's
So
actually pretty
yeah,
cool.
and I also read like some interviews with you, and I saw like you recommended them and the brother moves on and stuff like that. So I take it this
Yeah.
book is heavily inspired by like those kinds of bands and growing up amongst that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely inspired by like our time, like growing up and like watching people forge new sort of cultures and industries, and exploring different avenues. And so, the whole stupid like idea that like rock and roll is white people music and all of that. When you're like, motherfucker, have you even read a history book? Um,
Yeah,
but like yeah, so like but it being new here in South Africa for me, I think because South Africa is such a weird place, and also like the new democratic dispensation allows us to express ourselves in different ways. So I was yeah, I was definitely fascinated. Like, so the Cursed Children of Ham definitely draw inspiration from the Blackjacks. Like, you're spot on from the Blackjacks, and like the brother moves on, and like, so I'm thinking, so when I was thinking of like the other Afrikaans band, for instance, I'm like thinking fuck off, and
fuck
like,
off.
yeah,
Exactly.
and A King and shit like that. So it was definitely a way of like mapping out, the new or the way that like we came up and were forging like new ways of expression, and listening to culture, and the growth of that evolutionary point of like artistic expression.
Yeah, definitely. Like I could see that, and it felt so. Like while it's clearly a black experience, it was something I recognized so much of, and it also gave me insights into a lot of my peers if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because as a white guy, like I've encountered so many of these characters in the book, but I don't know necessarily where they actually come from, what home life actually is. And
Mm.
I like that this book, for me at least, it gives an insight. And I can imagine for other people, it feels like their lives.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's I think what's kind of interesting about like what I'm playing with here is this idea of these black kids that are self-aware but aren't necessarily performing contrition and guilt over the fact that they've been born into like privilege, even though they are aware that the world is fucked up and it's racist and whatever. And you mean you get it from the name of the band, the Cursed Children of Ham.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it was an opportunity to also explore those like little avenues of having to grow up in like westernized and white spaces and navigate that, and then what does that mean for you as a middle class black kid, and how does that look like as your own story?
Is it somewhat of an autobiography in a way?
People always ask me this. I don't see it. A lot of people think that it's quite like it's quite biography driven, and maybe like when I've got a little bit of distance from it, I'll check it, I'll see it. But for now, I don't. Like I just see, I do see. What I did was I constructed spaces that I knew and spaces that I'd been in,
Cool.
and sort of
And
try
people
and
that you knew?
people that I mean, very, very, very sort of on like a very surface level. I'd pick up mannerisms, or I'd like take a story that I'd heard and like I'd twist it a little bit. But yeah, like there are like evident for me archetypal characters that sort of exist in the story. But yeah, like those archetypal characters become for me universal more than they do become
Yeah.
personal, you know?
Okay, I get that. It's just I'm currently working on a movie based on, my experiences in the scene and stuff. And it's not necessarily autobiographical, but
Mm.
yeah, like I was actually reading your book and like feeling heavily inspired. Like tonight I'm definitely gonna be working on my script a bit more because yeah, man, you capture like to me, like, yeah, like something that we like it's almost kind of nostalgia. We have
Mm.
that 20-year cycle of nostalgia, but that thing that hasn't necessarily been touched on yet that I haven't necessarily read. I shouldn't say hasn't been touched on yet, because I know there are actually writers. You actually mentioned a few of them who I need to check out in your interview with Pam Macmillan. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, for me it was just like it's something that I've been trying to do at the moment for myself is create something from that time period, that
Mm.
like selects that shows people that I don't know, just that freedom that we kind of had.
Yeah.
And I do feel like while there was a lot of responsibility, there was also just this really free time.
Yeah, well, and that's I think why I wrote these characters without this like performance of contrition, of like being black and being privileged, is because there was a moment in time where we were just like running rampant and we were just like fucking expressing ourselves because we are like the original guinea pig generation. I remember I started
Yeah.
grade one in '94, and
I think
so
I was grade 1 or 2 as well, yeah.
yeah, so like we literally are the guinea pigs of this whole shit. And then to like go off the beaten path even further and become reprobates and delinquents and not follow everyone like, on the typical jock path to success. And actually sort of like enter alternative spaces and look at that like as like a creative freedom is for me like so important to mark, like, for me like African Dope was a seminal moment in time. And like I remember
Yeah.
being in high school and being like, oh my fucking God, what's going on? And then listening to underground rap music that's like literally made as underground rap music for like groundworks and all of that. And then there was still the Pure Monati show that came on
Yeah,
TV
man.
and just changed the whole fucking game. So for me, yeah, like that nostalgia is so important because there's so much in there that like allowed us to like break free of like just the pedestrian middle class suburban experience.
And another thing your book does deal with is obviously adolescent partying and drinking and drugs and that sort of thing. It doesn't necessarily
Euphoria, baby.
I mean, I think that's just creative scenes, man. I think that's just music scenes. It's like, unless you're like part of the straight edge vibe, I think it is something that everyone gets caught up in for some period in time. We were kind of discussing it beforehand, in your mid 20s.
Mm,
Everyone, well, not everyone, but everyone I know at least, like, and myself included, lost themselves a little bit in the drink, a little bit in the drugs, some people a
mm,
bit more than others.
mm.
So what was your attitude coming into tackling those kind of topics in this book?
Yeah, man, self medication. Because you're also everybody's like, so there's the idea of like, at school you've got this like path charted out for you. You've got like this routine. You've got all these things that have been done for you, right? But then there's a lot of people, and like I think that's where like this weird like autistic sort of vibe becomes interesting for me, is that I'm already questioning myself at school, like, where do I exist, where do I fit in the world, where am I going to go, what am I going to do with this, because this can't be it. and so like, like I started smoking weed when I was like properly when I was like 15, and like
Same.
and when I was like averaging 6 joints a day, and like just like reading literature way beyond my years, but like holding on to the little bits that I could.
Sounds like we had a similar upbringing.
Yeah, right. Like when you're like 15 and you're just like dropping the name Jean Paul Sartre,
Bro,
and
I literally read a Noam Chomsky book on fucking economics in the Mediterranean or something, like because that was the only book in the library by Noam Chomsky, and I had no fucking clue what was going on. But fucking no
yeah.
effects mentioned them, so I was like, cool, let's read some Chomsky.
Exactly, dude. Like, and I was like, I remember I started Black Skins, White Masks when I was like 15, with Franz Fanon. And, like, I was like, I could grab some of these concepts, but I couldn't really. But then also, then I'm like, oh shit, Dumi, when Dumi was a part of the volume,
Yeah.
it was like mentioning like Franz Fanon, and I'm like, oh shit, nigga, don't worry, I'm already on that, bro. Like, I'm already there. So like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's a good place to go. But I mean, there's also like this like existential angst and dread that comes with being a teenager, right? Because this is when you have to forge your identity, and you're being forced to start thinking like almost as a human, and you find yourself in the scene where smoking, drinking, taking drugs is like the norm. I also wanted to explore the idea of recreational drug use and what does that mean? What does it look like to like just be against it the whole time, or can it actually serve a purpose? I think the addiction sort of narrative and the legal sort of narrative is sort of played out, and we
Yeah.
need to really interrogate that a little bit more, because we've got the wildest constitution in that it's like so goddamn progressive, but we're still coming from a Calvinist framework and influence of like heavy Christian moral duty that then doesn't allow people to be who they are, rather enforces them like to be who the state wants them to be. So it's like, I think we're coming from like a very, very interesting like background in history. And yeah, man, drugs save the kids.
Yeah, man, I can't really argue with you there because I feel quite similarly. I mean, while there were time periods in my life where I probably indulged a bit too much, in general, I've always said that, yeah, drugs gave me a lot of insight and opened me up to just, like I can be a fairly antisocial person sometimes, and MDMA can break down a lot of walls. I'll tell you that. So can shrooms, so can acid. So for me, like, yeah, also just those things are communal sometimes. It's amazing to go on these journeys with your friends. But there are periods where it can be a bit much, where you do get caught up in the jaw, where it's not necessarily recreational anymore. It's now your lifestyle. It's now a
Yeah.
part of.
When you make it a part of your identity, it becomes fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
You ever like had those experiences, or you always been on the straight and narrow? Well, straightish and narrowish.
yeah, one thing about me, my friend, there's nothing narrow about these hips. So I'm definitely like for me, like I definitely have I interrogate my relationship with alcohol all the time. And and that's the thing, right? That's the self medication that I'm looking at, because as a South African as South Africans, we start drinking hella young. Like,
Mm-hmm.
by 13, you were like trying to grab yourself a hooch and just like fucking walk around the party, have a cigarette, just like show everybody that you're hardcore with the hooch in your hand.
Bro, when we were 13, we were literally going to under 18 Joels, and with the money our parents gave us, getting the oldest kids to go to the bottle store, getting like peppermint liqueur and fucking Mocador, and then drinking outside the under 18 Joel,
Yeah,
and then
going
like
in like
with the
wanking.
remaining money, one person pays and
Yeah.
comes out and double stamps everyone. That was the hustle, like when we were kids.
Dude, I used to like fucking love that shit. Or like, hustling the Southern Comfort when you get to 16 and you're watching like, the Friends advert, the Southern Comfort come up like while Friends is on. And Southern Comfort was disgusting. I don't know why we put
Oh
ourselves
god, it's
through
chanda
that.
material, dude.
Dude, like it made no sense why we put ourselves through that. I've actually like my uncle, my late uncle, actually, so he used to smoke a fuck ton of weed. He's my dad's older brother. And
So he might be, some inspiration for a character in the book.
well, yeah. I mean, like you see, I take like little things and I like sort of construct them, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, so he uses a fuck ton of weed. But my uncle was just like he was on one dude. He used to be a boxer, so sometimes I'd question like, I mean, did they diagnose concussions back then? And so like the one time he's telling me, he's like, "Yo, have you ever drank Southern Comfort? I'd never drink that shit again. One time I drank it, I got so small, I shrank. I shrank to the point where you could fit me inside the bottle itself." And I was like, I was like, "Look, uncle, I love you, dog, but the weed might be fucking you up just a tiny bit right now, dog." Like,
Put the
so,
blood down.
so I don't ever want to shrink. So that's why I'm like, fuck the Southern Comfort.
But what do you get out of alcohol? What's its appeal?
I guess it's numbing,
Okay.
it dulls your
And what are you
senses.
trying to numb?
I guess it's like the greatest thing for me, like that comes out of alcohol is like the the numbing of like inhibition, and
Okay.
so like social situations, like your social anxiety, like sort of dissipates quite quickly.
100%.
I mean, have you ever noticed, like, if you're meeting people, and it doesn't matter who, even if it's like someone you know and you love, and like you like really, really know them really well, and you haven't seen them, and like you meet up with them, the first 10 minutes, like in sobriety, like if you're like completely sober, in the first 10 minutes, like, it's kind of awkward. Like you're kind of like gauging where the person's at, they're gauging where you're at, and like you're having this conversation, and then it's like, I mean, it's okay, but it's not as free flowing as what you're like used to it being. And then after
Yeah.
that, like 10-minute barrier, it kind of just like starts going, whether you're drinking or not. But like with drinking, you kind of deal with that 10-minute barrier like so much quicker. And I don't know if it's just like a psychosomatic thing of like the social lubricant like being present, because there's like a ritual around interaction, I find.
And we learned that from, like you say, from like such a young age.
Mm. And you like the media that you're taking in also influences that, right? The Southern Comfort adverts that we're watching are like, should we go to Prague? Okay, cool, let's go to Prague. And you remember that shit. So that kind of shit, like, it's like, oh, like you can only have fun with your friends when you're wankered. You're only gonna have adventures, like cool adventures, when you're like drinking or doing some stupid shit to alter your mind state. So I think that's the interesting relationship I have with alcohol. It's one that I interrogate all the time. It's not an interrogation that I always win. Um, but I'm not tripping too hard about it at the moment. But I do try and be like, I need to be careful.
Yeah, I feel you there. Like I've had those things with alcohol at times, but for me, weed is my. I smoke all day, every day, and I interrogate it sometimes, and then I just usually get to the conclusion of, but like you're doing pretty well, like
I'm still functional.
yeah, I'm still hella functional, but like if I don't smoke weed, I'm way less functional. Like I have a million thoughts going everywhere, but weed at least helps me streamline shit. So I
Yeah.
figure it's that or Ritalin.
Hey, man. Yeah, we are the Ritalin guinea pigs too, aren't we?
Yeah,
I,
that is That is the worst coming out of my laugh was when I took Ritalin and ecstasy together.
Jesus,
Straight up.
that does not sound fun. Like you are
No.
having euphoria, but also a tunnel vision version.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was the experience there?
No, like, I think that night that I was on, it was at the Willowvale Hotel, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain, like, I was irritating everyone around me, but I was just the chattiest human being in history. And then the next day, it was just, like, the absolute losers, but beyond anything I'd ever experienced before. It was just like, "You are the worst human being that's ever existed," you know?
That's the only thing that chows me about like alcohol is the LC. Like, I mean, I'd also like, with MDMA, bro. Like, if I go to a spot and I'm on one, I'll like feel so like I'll have the LCs for a hot minute thinking about that shit. But like, if I'm with people and like it's like a controlled environment and whatever, then that's chilled because we're all vibing on the same frequency.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of stuff is also important. Like, that's why I think there should be like a greater interrogation about recreational drug use, is because is like it's social anyway. Like all of this shit is sparked by
It's something
social
it's
dilemma.
something we've done throughout history as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, did you see that documentary they put out on Netflix? It's got
Nah.
like
Like, I haven't. Whatever the documentary on Netflix is, I haven't seen it.
oh, I mean, this one's actually good.
Cool. I
It's
just
got
don't have
like
Netflix, so
yeah, it's got like Mark Maron, Carrie Fisher.
oh, those are my people.
Yeah, like, and they're all talking about like, the idea of tripping and different ways of seeing the world and like different perspectives. But the one thing that struck me was like the idea that while we live on the same planet, we all occupy different universes. So
Yeah.
the way that a fly is constructed, it lives in a completely different universe to what we do because it's like its perspective and its senses are like calibrated differently. And I was like, oh, bro, I'm not even tripping, but that tripped me out.
Or these are conversations I annoy my girlfriend with from time to time. Like, I'm
Sorry.
always like, there's literally stuff we cannot see around us that exists, like
Exactly.
infrared rays and stuff like that. This is literally just a perception based on the senses that we have. Like, and
Exactly.
we're trying to say this is the way the world is.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like, it's the way the world is to us.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's the
Exactly.
world is something different to like every being. Yeah, no, like that is shit I get deep into sometimes.
Yeah, like that's like when you're having conversations about energy, bro.
You see, that's the thing. Like, I've like this year, like I've gotten like into Zen philosophy, but I still can't get into the woo 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 shit. Like
Yeah.
a lot of it makes sense. A lot of it's like, yeah, that's totally sensible, and some of it's just like, come on, bro. Like, did you have to take it there? Like,
Yeah, bro. I'm also the same. I'm like, okay, cool. As long as I can understand it, then cool. But like as soon as I'm like as I become skeptical of your shit, fuck it, bro. Like I'll take it to I'll take it to like as far as my like mind can wrap my mind grapes around, you know? I don't know, like there is like a majesty in letting things marinate for a while as well. Like and a patience that comes with it. Because sometimes I'll read shit and I'm like, this shit is far out. But cool.
mhm.
Let me let it sit. And the idea of when you sort of look for something and then like you start seeing shit around you. Or when you don't look for something, when you stop looking for something and then suddenly all around you all the shit pops up that you were like associating with this like idea like that, and then that becomes interesting to me because then it's like the idea of something revealing itself rather than you seeking out or proving its existence.
Yeah, sometimes things take time.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, quite often like I'll be having a good conversation, a nice esoteric conversation about vibes, energy, like the universe, all that like hippie and rasta talk like at the rave, and then like someone will bring up aliens and then I'll just be like, okay, those conversations over. So I've got a threshold.
Got a little too Joe Rogan for you there.
Exactly, bro. Like I don't need another inarticulate white man just like chewing my ear off, Doug.
And yet you chose to come on this podcast.
Hey man, at least we're not talking about DMT yet.
yet. It is a vibe though. I will say that much. I've had yeah.
I've never heard someone make DMT sound so uncool.
That was like when Elon Musk smoked weed on his podcast. I was just like, I
Oh
need to
yeah.
quit smoking weed now because like it's officially uncool.
Dude, it was like watching Wolf of Wall Street. I'd never wanted to take less drugs, cuss less, and drink less. then afterward, then when I watched that movie, dude, like, I was like, okay, cool. Like Mormonism is cool right now.
Oh man. Okay, we're about half an hour in, so I guess I should start asking you about your history and your background and everything like that. So, you were born in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah, I was born in Zimbabwe. My parents were in exile.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
So once again, that does come through a little bit in Born Freeloaders.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Fuck. Okay.
You're starting to
Cool.
wonder why it's a bit of a autobiographical look.
Fine, Bob. I just wrote my autobiography, and I just smudged names. It's actually a memoir. Uh,
But that is like, you know, somewhat of the experience that you're sharing within the book.
yeah. I mean, people always say write what you know, and I think this story was just something that I was carrying inside of me for a very long time, and I just needed it to come out some way or other.
Yeah, I get that. How long have you been sitting with this?
Since I was like 22. Like, I mean, obviously, I wasn't writing it like consistently. Otherwise, this would be. Whew.
Oh, so you were actually writing it from then.
Yeah, I started yeah, the idea. Then I was going to make it a short story, and it was like actually this, like, what you call this, it was just like a male gaze on like the idea of like Ntabi Singh initially when it started out, and I was going to call it like
Okay.
Little Miss Amazing based on a crush I had at the time. And then I realized, I mean, as the years wore on, one must get woke, like Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And the story grew, and it got a little bit more complicated. And as life got more complicated, I had to interrogate myself, my positions, and what I was doing. So I had to let go of the story in different ways, in terms of not imposing my ideals and principles on the characters, but letting the characters belong to themselves.
So when did that start happening? Like, so I assume you start writing the characters and that,
Mm,
and then their ideas, you know, in the beginning.
mm.
When do they start becoming real?
I think the further along they go, like the more I write, the more I get to understand these assholes, and I get to understand their dynamics, and where they're coming from. Because I have to inform them. Like, I have to start seeing them as real people. So the easiest thing I do, like for me, is because I'm also like a playwright. So the easiest thing I do is dialogue. So I'd run through
I kind of picked
dialogue.
that up. Your dialogue's really fucking good, dude. Like annoyingly so. Like I have to admit that I was a couple pages in, and I was just like, "Damn, dude, this dialogue is on point."
Thanks, dude. It's all about the subtext.
You also switch up between the different languages. Well, you also, you know, you write the Afrikaans. You write each character with their own distinct dialogue, with their own unique characters. Like that's why I was saying, like, when did it actually happen? Because it comes through, you know, in the early pages. Like these
Yeah.
characters are pretty fully formed just by the way they speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because like South Africa is such a weird place. It's like a kaleidoscope of so many things and everything. And so at some point in the day, your life, your existence, is going to be unintelligible to you, and because like there's so many languages going on all the time. So I had to make the book unintelligible to myself at parts, because there's so many parts of my day where my reality is unintelligible to me because someone's speaking a different language. And so then there's also like a different context and culture that goes with that you need to observe, right? And
And
so,
that's relatable to everyone in South
yeah,
Africa.
exactly. And that's why like it made no sense to have footnote translations, because it's like, do you ask for the subtitles to be put on when people are speaking Setswana in front of you? It's not
So
Netflix,
usually I'll
motherfucker.
ask once people have left or there's one guy left to be like, hey, so what does that word mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, you make it work, but like it's not going to happen in real time. So yeah, I thought that context was definitely important to put in there. And so once you start playing with dialogue, the characters start showing themselves to you. because if they sound too similar, then like obviously you've got a problem. But once I imagine people speaking, and then I can see them, and then I can see their mannerisms, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So this is this kind of person. Where do these mannerisms come from? And then start filling in kind of from there, you know. But it's names that fuck me up the most. Like I'm always like, okay, what's this person's name gonna be? Oh, I already know Bob. Bob's gonna think it's about him. Fuck. Um, so like I struggle with names. Like I mean, like when I say I struggle, and like it takes me 10 minutes to come up with a name, like so that I can start writing.
Yeah, I've got a band in my movie called Loose, and like it took me a while to come up with that, and I
Yeah,
still don't know if I want to go with it. But like each member in the band, like it took a while, like because they are like representations of people I know, but they're very much amalgamations of like multiple different people
yeah,
and just different things coming through. But yeah, trying to pick names so that people wouldn't see themselves was a little bit tricky.
yeah. Exactly. You can't like turn David into Dave. Like it's like, dude, come on, you're the creative here. Just like do a little bit more work. But hey, dude, let me audition for this film? Are there black band members? I'll sing.
There's
I'll
a
do push-ups on
Yeah,
stage.
there actually is. There's a guy called Tats, and yeah, he's got like I'm not struggling to write him, but I am trying to figure out how to write him as the only black guy in a white band,
Yeah,
and those sorts of dynamics and interactions between the fathers and yeah, things
yeah.
like that.
Those are always the best when like you have to go to your white homie's friend and to your white homie's like home, and then like and you're like, yo, dude, like, are you sure your parents are cool with this? And you're like, yeah, it's just like a little bit racist, but it's okay, bro. It's like it's chill, you know. And like you get there, and it's like, get out.
But so okay, I guess so. So you were originally in Zimbabwe because your parents were in exile. When did you move back to South Africa?
When I was 2, so I don't have memories of Zimbabwe at all.
Okay.
Yeah, but we moved around the country a little bit. Like, so 2 years old, smuggled back into the country, stayed in what was Botswana back then for like a couple of months, then moved down to PE with my grandparents, stayed there for about 2 years. Then my parents came back in 1990, like with the unbanning of the ANC. So we moved back home to, oh well, then we moved to Joburg, the worst part of Joburg, which is called a place called Germiston, and
So
um,
that's the worst part of Joburg.
like the East Rand, bro. Come on.
Okay. I mean, I only visited my dad like twice ever, but he stayed in Krugersdorp, and that seemed like a bit of a shithole. But I can
uh,
imagine Germiston's quite a
hey,
bit worse.
listen. At least we're still talking about Joburg with Germiston. Krugersdorp, yes, you're on your own, bro. Oaks, Oaks out there are feral, bro. So
No, you're not wrong. I used to play ice hockey here in Durban on our
dude,
tiny little rink, and we
that's the
went up
coolest
and
thing
played
you've
against
ever
a
told
team.
me.
I
Like you
haven't
play
told you much, but yeah. Yeah, when I was like 12. And then we went on tour to Joburg and played on the big ice rink against Afrikaners, and that was
yeah,
kind of when I stopped playing ice hockey.
yeah.
Like, it was just like,
Like
perfect goal for me.
that's when you realize the ice might be a little bit cold and hard, and it sucks to live here.
Yeah, it's not as hard as, Afrikaner, I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much.
Listen, when an Afrikaner drops on ice, it's only the ice that gets hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I mean, I grew up playing rugby with these motherfuckers, so like, and I grew up having to fight them in Pretoria, so I know exactly what it's like to be on the receiving end of just like a little shoulder charge there.
So you're a little bit of a jock there with the rugby because I see, yeah, you post a lot about rugby. Dan Carter's now watching your Instagram stories apparently.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah, you've got that duality in life there.
yeah. Listen, I grew up in Pretoria. What chance did I have? Needed to survive somehow. But yeah, like I don't know. I've always been like, I mean, I'm closer, so the rugby runs deep, you know.
I mean, I don't know the
Oh yeah, no, there's like a deep history, Xhosa history with rugby. Actually, if you rub a rugby ball 3 times, a Xhosa dude who never let go of high school just jumps up, like, pops up out of nowhere and like sidesteps you. You know, could have gone pro if it wasn't for my knee, bro. But yeah, like I've always like enjoyed like a fuck ton of stuff. My dad was a jock. Like my dad played every sport imaginable, so there was always like sport playing in the background. And so we really got into sports, my brother and I. And my brother's an artist. He's an illustrator and muralist. And he went to art school, but then after school, he'd come to my school to play rugby. So we always like had that, but then we were also like rapping and creating art, and then I was doing drama, and I was like writing, and I was skating, and so
Once
yeah,
again, dude, we had a pretty similar upbringing. Like I was not playing rugby, I was playing like hockey and cricket and
it's running golf,
fucking softball. Yeah, just like all the sports where you had something in your hand that you could like defend yourself with, basically.
dude.
And then I would be like, computer club, and also after school busy skating, like on the weekends going and bodyboarding and stuff like that. So I was also like quite active, and like I love competition. Being
Yeah.
in competition, it's one of those things. It's a cool test of yourself, and also it's just fun.
Yeah, I mean it's expanding on the limitations of your body, right? Like seeing how far
Exactly.
you can do something, how far you can take it. And like also just like a constant like it's not just physical, it's mental. And it's also a mental test. So like that for me is like the fun part of it all. So you're a jock, eh? Yes, see, welcome. Welcome, Bob.
Who?
Welcome to your own
Yeah,
podcast.
but some secrets people didn't know. But no, like I mean, these days I don't pay that much attention to sports. Like if it's on, I'll watch it. Like I
Yeah.
don't care, but like generally about the outcome, except for the Proteas and the fucking World Cup. That's the
Yeah.
only like I just bro like I'm gonna be so upset if I die before they actually pull it off. Like that
Listen,
is genuinely the only thing I'm living for, really.
listen, I'm still finna ask Alan Donald for his cricket bat. Uh, just so I
Fuck.
can feel better about myself because I'm going for both his kneecaps and both his elbows.
Oh fuck! I still remember. Like I used to go to the Boxing Day test. Like I've gone to it most of my life. Like,
Yeah,
and I used to. My mom worked at the bowling center down by the beachfront, here in Durban, and the cricket stadium's just down the road. Like it's 300-meter walk basically. So I would
yeah.
often be going down to the cricket and that. And I still remember the Barmy Army and their song about Alan Donald, and it's like, whoa, he had a panic attack. Whoa, I went and dropped my bat. Run, Alan, run. I still fucking remember that, dude. Brutal,
The Bomby Army are the
absolutely
worst, dude.
brutal.
The Bomby Army are
The
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 worst.
best and the worst. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I
like,
appreciate. I wish
I
we had
appreciate
something
when
like that.
me too, but I mean, we do. We've got like, I think we need to encourage Ikwijo, like, the Kwijo squads to like rock up a lot more and for people to learn the songs actually because we've got like mad songs like in South Africa and like they also adapt quite quickly. It's almost like the New Zealand and the haka
Yeah,
that hakas also get created for moments, for occasions, and particularly for particular sort of circumstances. Um, and so, like, I think we need to embrace that a lot more and stop looking at this like, stop thinking about things as like monoliths. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
so, like, I remember the one time with the Bomby Army were up here at Wanderers, and they were like, "We got 23 pounds to the rand. We got 23 pounds." So I was like, "Actually, fuck these motherfuckers!" And I was like, literally screamed at the whole stand, "Listen, follow me! You stole all of our gold. Bring it back. You stole all of our gold." It was pretty epic. It was like one of those moments you take with you to the grave, and you're like, "Yeah, actually, it was worth it. Sweet. It's worth the liver spots."
Oh man. Yeah, fuck. I didn't expect us to be talking about the Barmy Army.
Yeah, listen, Ree, this is the Bob experience, and I'm loving it. I found out that you're a jock today. Found out that
That I played ice hockey.
you played ice hockey. I'm less scared of ice hockey than I am of like actual hockey, and you played actual hockey. Like,
Yeah, and that's fair, to be completely fucking honest.
you,
Like actual hockey is way more like hectic than ice
yeah,
hockey.
like
Like
running golf.
straight up.
Running golf is just like one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life. Like,
That's a good way to like describe it, except the ball is bigger and harder.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
yeah, no, like I took a hockey stick to the knee once, like that put me out of
Eh,
action for like half a year.
Jeez.
And then I played for varsity, even though I didn't go to varsity. I played for the UKZN like fourth team, but we
That's
like
dope.
somehow just kept succeeding. Like we kept failing upwards, and we landed up in like one of the top leagues and shit. And like we were the drinking team. Like that was the whole thing. Like, and
Dude.
that's when I was also like, I think I'm out of here because those always could, like the teams we were playing against, those people could really hit a fucking ball, and I was like,
And
I'm
you're playing
cool,
for
you
fun.
know, like yeah, like I'm coming there and I'm chundering on the side of the fucking field because I'm hungover from last night, like genuinely.
Dude.
We started out, we were playing the grass league. Like we were literally on grass having a nice fun Sunday running around like with the men on our team were like, 35. Like they used to
Yeah.
play for like the KZN or South African team. And now they were just, getting away
Having
from the wives for the weekend.
Yeah. Like
And
that's what we like. There's a touch rugby group that I play with up here now. And when I say I play with, I mean I sit on the sidelines ever since I was embarrassed the fuck out last year. Yo, this kid sidestepped me so bad that he called for the ball again and looked me in the eye and said, "There's a mismatch over here."
wow.
Yeah, and then I was pissed off and I was like, "There's no way he's gonna like fucking get away from me this time." Motherfucker sidestepped me
And then he did.
and put me on my knees. I was like, "I cool. Like, I need to give up now, because now it looks like I'm praying to this dude."
I mean, he wasn't wrong then, basically.
Yeah, and then on the third ball, he just like literally ran around me, and like all the eggs were like, "Yeah, dude, get off the wing." Like, and it's embarrassing because
Like
like,
imagine being like Bugs Bunny.
dude, it's literally like I was the Alma Fudd of that situation 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes we get put on our place, eh?
Yay, Doug. Life is nothing if not humbling.
Fuck, that is so fucking true. So Pretoria, what you've alluded to growing up and what it was like for you, but yeah, what was that whole experience like? Because it seems like there was like for me, like the stuff I know about Pretoria is obviously it used to be, and your book describes it quite well, hella white, hella racist, and has become way more integrated now.
Mm.
And it's also like I remember the music scene from back then as like Henk van der Schyff with the Hotbox Studios and stuff like that, and like
Yeah.
Desmond and the Tutus and those kinds of bands from my
Yeah.
side. So yeah, what were you experiencing?
So before Desmond and the Tutus, and I'm sure he's gonna hate this when I say it, but I knew Shane, the lead singer, via
Nice guy.
well, I didn't know him personally, but he had put out like an album of Freddie Dilemma called Freddie Dilemma of him rapping, and it was like I liked it. It was cool because it was like he sounded like Waddy at the time before Waddy became what he is now.
Yeah.
Like he was
R.I.P.
like on his thank you. He was on his Max Normal shit, and I thought that shit was like fucking fire.
Bro.
But yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay, I'll tell you, like, I want to write a book based on fucking Sabot, Spook Matumbo, and Wadi. Like,
yeah,
that's been a project that's been in my head for years. Like, and just the evolution of South African music since those three got together.
dude, and Marcus Wormstorm, because the real estate agents were
Yeah, Marcus was, yes, exactly.
dude, the real estate agents and the constructors corporation fucking changed the game for me. That's when I was like, fuck it, this is what I want to do. Like, I just want to make shit, and I just want to make shit all the goddamn time.
Yeah, for me, the Fantastic Kill just like, yeah, it really did things to me.
Dude,
and
sing to me, Bob, sing to me. Fantastic Kill, like Waddy, just like that was. I mean, that was the last time. That was the last time we ever saw Waddy, to be honest. Yeah, so like growing up in Pretoria, and I remember the one time, like, because we kind of knew, like, I mean, we knew Spook and had met Waddy. We were like meant to like open a couple of shows for them. So the one time, like, the real estate agents.
Wait, what do you mean we?
So like I said, we used to rap. Like, me and my brother.
Okay,
Me and my brother started a rap group when I was like 14, he was 13 at the time, and we called ourselves the Fat Few. And our first album was called Heavyweight. And
you guys,
like when we were rapping, like Pretoria is like the capital city of like and then, it's Cap City, Rap City. So you can't like walk anywhere without being forced to battle if you're claiming MC over there. And so we used to like rap all the fucking time. And then we got like sort of bored of just like battle raps and punchlines because we were like getting swayed into like proper underground motherfuckers, like Groundworks here in Cape Town. And then there was like the audio visual, there was like Janai Grindith and like all these other like underground rappers like here, like in Joburg. And so we were like, all right, cool. Like with this, just like this like pedestrian stuff is not like our lane. We want to get weirder. And the weirder we got, like we'd come down to Cape Town for holidays, my brother and I, for school holidays, because my parents had a flat down here and my sister was at UCT. So we'd come down and then we met Spook through that way. Like we spent a week here, we met Spook, and like Spook was already fucking with Waddy back then. And yeah, we like opened a couple of shows for them. And we also started like rapping together with Spook. We had this whole thing called the Baganes, and it was just like a pop-up group, and we were rapping on this on this like 8-track. You couldn't do takes. There were like 5 of us in a room, and we all had to have all our verses on point. And then when we do the chorus, we all have to like sing into the one microphone at the same time because you can't do takes.
Why couldn't you do takes? What was
what was
the reason?
It was just like an 8-track, and
Oh snap! Okay.
yeah, so like it was just like this one microphone, and you had this one opportunity to do it, and we'd like eaten chocolate earlier on.
Okay, Eminem.
Like, yeah, I mean, dude, we had like everybody's mom's spaghettis all over them, and like so we like just played around and we like fucked around. We were called the Buccaneers, and for that week. And like one of our tracks was just like, what do you do with the drunken sailor? What do you do with the drunken sailor? Give him a carrot. And like that was that's the whole like chorus. So yeah, and then we bumped into Waddy, and so the one random night we went out in Hatfield in Pretoria, and we bumped into Spook and Waddy, and they had just finished their set. It was the year before Fantastic Kill dropped, actually. And so Waddy was still performing Super Evil. And then they were like, and we just bumped into them at the McDonald's and like, yo, dudes, we just finished, but it was at Tings and Times. And when Tings and Times is still open, oof, RIP, music spot, like legendary music spot in Pretoria. And yeah, so then that was the first time I saw the real estate agents. They got us into Tings and Times, and like we just fucking bugged, dude. Like properly bugged, just hearing like real estate, and then Cybot like cutting like properly on the cuts. And, Marcus Wormstorm being as short as he is, but like going like even further, like every time he hops up and down, his like back is so arched that it looks like his face is about to touch the floor. And then Cybot like rolling rollies while he's like fucking around with the NPC, So
yeah.
Like
I remember seeing them at Burn, dude, and that was definitely a life-changing experience. That was just like, oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like, bro.
It was the old Burn, so it was like just this black hole essentially. Like that's it, like with lights and big ass speakers. And yeah, it was a big stage. I think there were definitely stage dives. Like the crowd was just losing it. It was definitely early on, like that I was fucking young for, man. Like I was I think I just finished matric.
Yeah, because that's like when the Cape of Good Dope was coming out. Yeah, like, and that's when like cats still had MySpace accounts.
Bro, that's how like I found myself, dude. Like straight up, like that's how I found my scene, my music, my everything. Like
Dude.
I give a lot of credit to MySpace, dude. Like that place helped me in so many ways. Like it gave me a space to like, express my identity and not be called a faggot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that was popular back then. Like people like, were you ever on Africa's Gateway?
I'm not sure. I was on the Durban alt scene and I got banned.
Oh, is it? Dude,
back in the forum days.
Forums, dude, like, those forums walked, like crawled so that Facebook and Twitter could run. Yeah, like, Dude, because I was like, oh, dude, African dope was like dope back then. I was like Mood Phase 5, Goddessa was on there, Crushed and Sorted were on there, Honeybee, Real Estate Agents, Max Normal. It was just like a golden.
Yeah.
It felt like a golden era for me, you know.
No, 100%, dude. And like it felt like also each city had its own stuff going on. Like from the period about 2008 to about 2000 well no, I'd say about 2004 to about
Yeah,
2012.
yeah. I think
Like Durban's peak was like about 2008 to 2012. That's why I say that. But
yeah,
like stuff started probably in Cape Town a bit sooner than everywhere else, and then Josie had its own thing though as well. So I don't know. Like yeah, everyone was just kind of doing their own thing, and it was just this
mm,
fucking free time where yeah, like a
yeah.
lot of dope expression, a lot of intermingling, a lot of yeah cross pollination. It was fucking dope.
Yeah, don't you find it weird that it's always like just a few people who'd like would cross pollinate on shit, you know? Like otherwise it's still like clicky like standoff shit where like people are like, okay, cool, fuck niggas from Joburg, fuck niggas from Victoria, fuck niggas from Durban, man, I'm from Cape Town, bro.
Yeah, but where did those people ever go? You know,
Yeah,
like where did those like acts ever survive? Like
yeah,
those were, you know, they became maybe local legends that never went anywhere. But we had such dope like touring networks set up, especially with the Joburg guys. Like my flat was a place where lots of bands have slept, and
yeah.
Kid of Doom actually said in a Blunt magazine that it was the worst place they ever stayed. So shout outs to them.
What dicks.
No, like they were like fuck. My friend Ali, who was in City Boy Mars, was like we were at Joe Cool's with the Kid of Doom guys because they were playing in Durban, and he said like, "Yo, do you mind if a couple of them stay at your place?" And I was like, "Dope." And it was them, their sound guys, and some girls, and
Damn.
with their sound and lighting guys. So it's about 13 people in total that landed up staying at my place. Not a couple, just all of them. And I had a 1.5 bedroom flat.
Yeah, I was about to say,
So
this sounds like a clown car.
oh, they'd hired a like van and everything, but yeah. So that was the first night I ever saw Metalocalypse. They were very into that show at that time, and yeah. But I've got so many like stories like that with just like different bands staying at my place, you know,
Yeah,
because like you need a tour, you need somewhere to stay, you know, like it's to make it as cheap as possible. Because if you're
yeah.
playing in Durban, you're not gonna make much money.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing anywhere, you're not gonna really make much money. I think, like, except for I don't know how maybe with Park Acoustics because Hank actually, I don't know how Hank's done it, but like, holy shit, dude, that dude came through with that Park Acoustic shit.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's like one of the like I imagine as a musician you want to play there and you probably get paid like hella well because they get crowd.
Yeah, and he's fair to like the thing is Hank's someone who got into this because he loves music. Like
Yeah,
the City Boy Mars has told me a story about his first avant tour where he like got on the bus like and was just the raddest dude. But like
yeah,
yeah, from there he had Hotbox and everything like that, and he's just done so many amazing things. He's
yeah,
definitely someone I want to get on the podcast
yeah.
when the time is right.
That would
But
be
he's
amazing.
done so many amazing things, and Park Acoustics is one of those things that like grew from the small little thing. But I
Yeah,
think he just took what he had learned from all his past successes and failures and just
yeah.
rolled them into one thing.
Well, I mean, what I like really enjoy about it is like the actual chutzpah to do it. You know,
Yeah.
like because we were talking earlier on about like the idea of like having to like kind of wait for a long time before like any like when you succeed at something because like you have to keep at it sort of consistently. I think I'm paraphrasing here and I don't know if I'm getting the paraphrase right, but like just the like what makes people sour a lot of the time is that they have all these ideas and they just sit on them and
Mm.
like they say I'm going to do it but they just like never do, and or if they start doing it like they expect that the world is waiting for them and they're like I gave it a shot. I gave it a shot and none of these people appreciate my work, and it's like nah nigga, you gotta be consistent with this motherfucker, and keep going at it until people like actually can appreciate it, you know.
Well, do you feel like you're kind of at that point now? Because I mean, with your first book, which is short stories, I
Mm.
haven't actually gotten into it yet. But with that, do you like? I mean, obviously, Born Freeloaders has been much better received. right?
Well, I mean, with the federal state of severity, it's quite interesting because I initially self-published. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, what sold it on self-publishing was the fact that I'd written it while I was in a psychiatric clinic, just doing treatment for my depression and anxiety. And so, like, people, they were like, yo, journal. And I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to write ridiculous stories. So I did. And then I self-published. And then from there, like, I was able to rustle up a book deal. Then, so there was the second release of the second edition. And so what's interesting is that there's like a 50-50 split on the reception. Of course, Born Freeloaders is being taken a little bit more seriously because it's a coherent novel. But yeah, there are some people who come up to me and they tell me that, like, listen, Born Freeloaders is not my shit. It's not like the Fascio State of Severity. Like, where's the blood? Where's
Oh
the
wow.
shit? Where's the cum?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I've like and like some and again, some people don't like it simply because these black kids aren't contrite. It's about like these motherfuckers growing up mired in privilege, and they don't like that idea or some shit like that. And it's like, I mean, fair enough. Like we all have our tastes.
I wonder, do you think it's because it's too close to home or too far?
I think it's a mixture of both, and I think it's also people because people want to see themselves reflected quite often, and especially as a black
Yeah.
writer, you've almost got this responsibility to represent blackness in its totality, which can be quite limiting then to for it to be like representational politics of writing, you know, because then I don't do the characters and the story any justice. So that becomes a bit of a frustrating point. But other than that, I think sometimes, because also there's a lot of talk about political proximities in the book, people don't have that kind of access and don't understand that kind of world, you know? And so they feel alienated about that, even though they are middle class black kids. So it's quite interesting for me. Like, yeah, like I enjoy feedback as long as it's considered because there are people who are like, who ask me stupid questions when it's like, dude, but I spent 7 pages on exposition just around this thing, and you literally brought up those 7 pages and are still asking me the question. And it's like, how else would you like me to answer this for you? Because, you know, I could color it in a book for you. Like, I don't know what you want. But yeah, like I enjoy feedback, whether it's positive or negative, but as long as like there's substantiation, so that I can understand why it is that like people feel like particular ways.
And criticism, how do you feel about criticism? So like actual critics digging into work. As someone who's delved into criticism, I mean you've written quite a lot on music and various parts of culture in South Africa. How
Yeah.
do you feel about your own work being criticized? What's your relationship to it there?
So I think that's what I was saying now about the spending time, like, take the work seriously. If you're going to criticize something, take the work seriously enough to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And then so that when you criticize, you criticize, like, you know, I used to write for Mahala, and we used to go in on people. We used to be fucking nasty, and like Andy Davis used to encourage us to be like pieces of shit. But the one thing we couldn't do was criticize just for the sake of criticizing and just to try and make a point about yourself and like be like a snarky like asshole sitting pretending to be a giant because you're standing on other people's shoulders. You needed to earn your punches. And so you needed to actually break down why it was that something didn't work for you. Whereas I find now people just say, this doesn't work. And then they say
Mm.
something snarky. And it's like, what's the point of that, bro? Like, all you did was give an opinion, and then you said something shitty about it, and it's like, that doesn't. And then people are going to claim that criticism is healthy to help you like grow as an artist, and it's like, yeah, but the criticism needs to be a critique. It can't just be a couple of well placed insults and then you call that a critique. And that was the other thing that I was saying, is like people not paying attention, where you can spend 7 to 8 pages doing exposition and then they'll still ask a question that has been answered in the preceding 8 pages. Then they'll still ask like a stupid question like that. And it's like, that means you didn't take the work seriously enough to pay attention to it. You had already made up your idea going into reading the book, and you just needed the book for content to write whatever takedown piece you thought you were going to put in. Yeah, but when done with love and respect, like, dude, I fucking love it because it only grows. Like, it can only grow you.
Yeah, I get that. Although to me, I'm often in the mindset that criticism isn't necessarily for the author. You know, like I think it's a conversation between the public, and I often tell, musicians and artists and stuff, please don't read what I write about you. Like it's not for you. Like it's not like, I'm not trying to either impress you or hurt you or anything
Yeah.
like that. I'm just saying what I think about the work, and that's from my perspective. And it's like if other people like my perspective and agree with previous stuff I've done, then maybe they'll take my word for it. But it's not like, it's because I also think artists know better themselves most of the time, but it does help to have someone close to you giving you criticism. Like I find that to be quite useful. But personally, like other people like talking about my work, that's their thing, like it makes me feel good when it's nice, but it makes me feel like shit when it's not, so I just try to avoid it.
Well, I generally like when it's negative, I generally like sort of laugh it off, but then I chill and I like to sit there with the stuff, grappling with the stuff because it helps me go on, like it helps me going into the next project. Like keeping some of that shit in mind. And of course it can be destructive. I can use it as a way to just like self-flagellate. But for the most part, I think it's, for me anyway, I find it useful. But again, like I find it useful when it's done right.
Yeah.
And,
When it's a considered opinion from someone who's
yeah.
got tons of experience and has, read a lot of fucking books.
Well,
Like,
they don't need to. It doesn't need to be all of that, but it needs to be something considered. It needs to be something
sure.
like that you spent time with and you thought about, and you didn't just like write it on the fly because you thought, okay, cool, I'm trying to get like likes and visibility off of this shit.
You do bring this up in the book, like with the blogger character.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, I saw a little bit of myself in that blog post. Like, I was like, like I've definitely gone like in not nowhere near as hard as that. Jeezy, like I don't think so. Although there might be some Durban bands who feel like, yeah, I was, unfair to them. But yeah, so that blogging character, I assume, comes from working at Mahala, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely, dude. Like that blog, because I was just like, you know what? I just need a troll. I just need an absolute troll in here to show also like the dynamic of like the internet age that we're living in, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, let me think of the widest name possible. I was like,
bro, that's exactly what I thought you did. Like I read that and I was like, this I just thought of the most white Cape Towner he could possibly fucking think of.
yeah, dude. And I just like I like channeled a couple of people from Mahala actually when I was writing that.
Yeah, I noticed it. I noticed.
And I was just like, okay, cool. Let me get grotesque on this because this is probably the only opportunity I'm gonna have to be like gross throughout the whole book. And so yeah, man, I just went in.
Yeah, and yeah, that was the what made you like make him touch on race? Because was that something guys were doing back then? Like the white dudes
Oh
who
yeah.
were writing about black music. Were
Oh,
they ever?
definitely.
Because that's the thing. I was a little like taken by that because I was like, shit, man. Like I personally would never ever try to like
Yeah.
analyze black music against white music like that. Like but. So, like, it obviously was a real reflection of what you saw.
Definitely. Even though, like, what they try when they did it themselves, they'd always try and be positive about it.
Okay.
But like, there's also like an underlying paternalism to that. So I wanted to make Donald Sterling like a little bit more, both a little bit more ballsy, but at the same time more realistic as like a person rather than as a reviewer.
Okay.
And so I needed him to say those things out aloud that he'd normally
To go over
say.
those lines.
Yeah, he needed to express that
Say the
shit.
quiet parts out loud.
Yeah, exactly. Like he needed to express that shit, and that's why I needed someone from Mahala to like as a stand-in for that character, or like that Mahala energy. Let me
Yeah.
say, because I mean I've done my fair share of
That
belligerent.
very much was like the time period, man. Like, but I
Yeah,
also think there was value to that in a lot of ways because it drew eyeballs to stuff, and people arguing for you against the writers was always a good thing for the band. Like I found that in the
yeah,
comment section on Durban is Yours, like as much as people would sometimes agree with like what we were writing, because I had fun, man, like just taking the piss sometimes, genuinely, and it would like I would try to back it up. I would give some reasons for why like I thought bands were shit, but the thing was to be entertaining. Like it was to try and yeah, like create a little controversy, and we were inspired by Vice and Mahala and stuff like that with
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
you would find in the comment section there'd be tons of people telling you you're wrong, fuck you, this band is
Yeah.
great. And so
Man,
to
that's
me,
dope.
like it's basically galvanizing your fucking fan base. And Mahala
Yeah,
got plenty of that as well. Like you would
yeah.
have so many times where they would just be like, fuck Roger Young, fuck Max, fuck all these others for like their opinions. Like
Yeah,
so but and they would rally for the band. So I mean, I don't know if I miss it so much because that was probably like the beginning of clickbait in its own
yeah,
way. But
definitely.
clickbait these days is so different. But I do like feel that these days most criticism or most writing, and even from myself, is just all positive. And I do that myself, like just because that's kind of what editors want. Like no one really wants to stir the pot that much these days.
Yeah, yeah, and like I think, but also it's about earning that pot stir, right?
Sure.
And how you do it. I think hate is a young person's game, like
Oh, amen.
because they've got the energy for it. They've got energy for the fight, which I think is dope because you need motherfuckers who are going to break shit and make sure that we're not comfortable, that we don't get too comfortable. I say that we don't get too comfortable as if I'm not a millennial, but I guess I'm an old millennial. I'm like 32.
Bro, there are younger writers now. Like they are. We're no longer the youth writers. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's like there are now new voices.
yeah. At least we're not no longer begging to at least get paid to write. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, fuck Andy Davis. I think that's again, it comes back to intention, and you need to earn your punches. I think the editor needs to be like, because my editors at Mahala, like when I just say some outlandish shit, they'd be like, okay, cool, but back that shit up, nigga. Like, I mean, obviously they couldn't say nigga, but I'm guessing silently they probably did.
What's
um,
it? The paratext or whatever. Sorry.
the like exactly like I just like I'd read that shit and be like, okay, cool. But yeah, I had like two of the best like sort of editors, like between Brandon Edmonds and Roger Young, because they make you think about your shit. They're like, okay, cool, that's a pretty sentence, but why? Like that's what I hope is not missing right now, is the why.
Well,
Like,
to be honest with you, that's the thing that I've been frustrated with throughout my writing career with editors is that so few of them have ever fucking given me proper feedback. Like I think fuck Ian McNair when he had
yeah,
platform, like
yeah,
is probably the
shout out,
best
yeah,
editor I've had because he made me like did a piece on Rude Boys,
yeah,
and he sent it back multiple times with questions, notes, and stuff like that. And that was so fucking helpful and so useful. But then I've written for, websites like Noisy,
yeah,
and you just submit your shit and then you see it on the website and you're like,
yeah,
okay. And it's just
yeah.
like, I was hoping this was a back and forth. I was hoping you had something to contribute here
I was
and
hoping
could,
you cared.
make it better. Yeah, I mean, they pay, but like you get paid better here.
Yeah,
Like
no, no,
that's
for
the
sure.
crazy
I
thing
mean,
about that.
like you just hope that they cared enough to like actually read it, interrogate it, and like before putting it up.
Yeah, like that's the thing because I mean, it's an editor should have direction. An editor should have an idea of what they want, on their publication, and they should also have some sort of guidance for writers. And it
Yeah,
just kind of frustrates me. And I do think I mean, also editors are a lot of the time overworked. They're writing like an article a fucking day.
Yeah.
As well as managing content plans and stuff like that. I think the digital age is definitely both good and bad in a lot of different ways. And yeah, I think editors also have it hard. So it's not as easy sometimes for certain publications for them to actually even sit with the thing. They read it, they go, okay, yeah, that's good enough. Cool. Let me change this a little bit. Let me change that. And then it goes out for publication. And then people read it, they forget it, and life goes on.
Yeah, like watching yourself get further and further down that timeline is actually one of the bleakest moments. It's like I compare it to like a come down, like just watching your levels go further and further down. Like, then you're like, oh fuck, okay, cool. Now I gotta do something else to like get back onto the
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah, it's like you got to do it all. Like that's the thing. Once the article's submitted and it's out there and people have read it, and then it's like, okay, now I got to do this all over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man.
But yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way, man. To be completely honest, I've learned to really I've ebbed and flowed with the fucking music journalism thing and like how I feel about it, because I often
Yeah.
feel like musicians are ungrateful fucking bastards, but at the same time, you shouldn't do stuff because you want people to be grateful.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, and like it's hella important though. Like it's hella important to like to also be able to let go.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes what we do is like we think, okay, cool, we just deserve that spot, and like we get comfort. Like I think I might be repeating myself again, but about the comfort thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's like making a hit, like one hit, and then like wanting that to stay forever, and then getting
Hey, but
tired.
Rick Astley's toured the world off of one hit.
Yeah, but then you get tired of like people. Then you hate your fans because all they want from you is that one hit, and you've been doing it forever, you know. And it's like, motherfucker, like what did you expect then?
You got to do more. You got to put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up.
Cool. So, and on that note, what's next?
Whew. I'm busy working on a screen adaptation for Born Freeloaders.
Dope.
I'm
So you went the novel route first, then into the script.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, I always wanted to go that route with a kid. As a kid, I always wanted to like write a novel and make a movie out of it.
Yeah, same.
And so this is like, yeah, this is weird alignment shits. And so Duprente Films is helping me with that. Gagiselitig's production company, which is like super
Dope.
exciting.
And that's cool since you grew up on fucking Pure Minati show. So
Right. Yeah. There may or may not be a Pure Monati documentary in the works that I'll be directing. And then I guess, yeah, I'm doing like a couple of VR shows, some VR concerts. So like,
oh
yeah,
snap.
I'm like one of the producers on that, which is gonna be
Who you doing that with?
so I'm collaborating with Batuk, who are the Spook Matambo
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and Carla Fonseca. So they won a grant from some French dudes, and yeah, so we did a video for them. We shot a 360 video for them. Can't wait for that to drop. Yeah, then they were like, "Yo, there's this opportunity, and you guys keen to fuck with it?" So me and Shmera, who helped me direct the video, who I directed the video with, not helped me direct the video. That sounds hella narcissistic. Like, yeah, we're putting on the concert, so it should be dropping on the 11th of December.
Sick.
Yeah. So and then just tinkering, I guess, like constantly tinkering, like trying to make shit, and yeah, hopefully try and get myself back on this podcast to talk to you because I like the sound of your voice and the content of your music.
I appreciate the kind words, bro. Like as I said, I was pretty surprised when you first told me you fucked with this shit. So it's
Yeah, I listened to your like the first one I listened to was with Nas, I think,
oh snap.
and then I listened to the one with Sandy, with Mixed Blouse. And then I listened to the one with Nikki. I thought that was fucking hilarious. I was like laughing my way throughout the whole shit. You guys were going in, and Nikki has no filter in her brain.
No, none. I just interviewed her for OK Africa, and editing that transcript is quite something.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, and then yeah, I listened to the one that dropped with Hannah Shan last week. Um, and
Yeah, that
I've
one was
been
really
like
fun.
I've been going through backup episodes as well. So I really enjoy the show, like straight up.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Like, like say, that's fucking dope to hear. Just because, as much as I think that this is cool, like you put stuff out there, hoping other people think it's cool as well, and
Yeah,
especially your peers. You know, you do want your peers to recognize and enjoy what you do.
yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what this podcast is. This particular one is, I guess, because like, yeah, I'm recognizing and appreciating what you do. Because, dude, yeah, I didn't know your novel writing would be this good, but like, yeah, I've enjoyed your music journalism over the years. So, yeah, shout
Wow.
outs. Shout
Oh,
outs to
bless
both of
up.
us.
Shout outs to both of us for getting to do what like we want to do, like, and for getting to play with the shit that we want to play with. Not everybody
Bro,
gets.
aim.
Not everybody has the chutzpah to follow through, and this one's also for them. Like, yo, listen, Bruce, don't let life catch you with your zip down. You can do it. Just don't get tired. It's like sport. Just keep at it. Do it again, Danny. Good
Cool.
luck.
So that's what I'm going to use for the quote for all of this. Oh, and with that, it does bring us to the end of the episode, bro. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the movie. That's going to be quite a trip.
Yeah. Let's hope it comes together well. Thank you for having me, B.
Cool. No worries.
All right.
Later, bro.